Ray. What do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Preaching,
Try to take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.
Yo, what up, everyone? It is Sunday. Do you know where your POGs are? Of course you do. We are here live and in full effect on your Sunday. It is a solemn Sunday for your boy. I want to start this podcast real quick. If you don't mind, Chappie, before we get into it, I just want to start off by paying my respects to a comrade in arms who took his trip to Valhalla over the weekend. Command Sergeant Major Eugene Johnson got a chance to serve with that good brother. I want to say 2011 through 2014. It's weird, man, how the years begin to escape you as you know the moons start to pass. I'm gonna share a picture for those of you guys who didn't get an opportunity to see this good brother. So that handsome gentleman right there unfortunately lost his battle to cancer this weekend and took his trip. He only let a very few of us in his circle knew what he was battling with, man, because he was one of those brothers, one of those soldiers who didn't want people to see him differently. And you see that a lot, you know, with us in our community, right? We always, especially as leaders, we always want to maintain that, you know, that image in our peers and our subordinates' minds. And he was just a genuine brother, man. And when I tell you, no lie, will give you the clothes off his back if you needed it, and will give you the last dollar in his pocket to make sure you had it. He was one of those genuine brothers, man. So to find out and to learn that he had he decided to take his trip, man, was truly heartbreaking. But I know in his last couple of days, last couple of weeks, last couple of months, it was an extremely painful transition for him. So to know that he's no longer in pain is bittersweet. But man, rest in peace, Sergeant Major, man. And you know, eventually when I get tired of these boots, I'm gonna take them off, man, and we're gonna party. And I know you got that 8-mile run just sitting up there waiting for me, man. And I'm telling you now, I ain't looking forward to it. But as always, I'm gonna begrudgingly go, and I'm gonna be cussing the whole way. But we're gonna motivate, and we're gonna sing cadence, and we're gonna lead from the front, like you always say, man, one way or the other. Sergeant Major. So we're gonna get it rocking. Rest in peace, good brother. With that being said, Chappie, what up, man? It's been a minute. Hurricane Helen kind of came through and raised a little head. How you doing, man? What's up?
I guess I'm about as good as can be expected. That's kind of a hard change over there. Rest in peace. Hey, Chaplain, how are you?
I know, man. You know.
But yeah, no, I get it. That's part of the deal, though, is you pay your respects and you move on. And
Sergeant Major, we're having no other way.
Yeah, acknowledge what he did, and what, you know, we've both lost people. When you said the many moons has passed by, dude, we're coming up on like over 9 years that we've known each other.
I know, right? That's insane.
Yeah. So I got to that unit in 2015. So that's a bit crazy. Man. And to think where we are now, that like we're in contact and we're as close friends as we are, that really shows there is a community in the military that it really is, to me, it's the most mixed community there is.
Absolutely.
You meet people. You told me that story about the kid from the Appalachians who'd never seen a black guy before.
Yep,
and
Jay S'mores, man. That is
yeah.
My
how come that dirt ain't coming off of you? How come you ain't getting clean?
That is my brother.
I want to meet that dude.
Shout out. He's still in Phoenix City. Not Phoenix City. He's in Phoenix, Arizona. Him and his beautiful wife is out in Phoenix, Arizona, man, and they're living the life. Man, it's been about 2 years since I went out there and hung out with my brother from another mother, man. Even, you know what's weird? Even now to these days, like we introduce each other as brothers. When we meet people, I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is my brother. And they'd be like, brother. I'd be like, yeah, like my brother. We grew up together. This is my brother. And people are still like, no. I'm like, yeah, no, this is my brother. Like blood couldn't make us any closer. And people don't get it, man. But yeah, that is my partner. So wherever you at, J-Mo, man, just know, man, I'm always thinking about you, man. Out there. He got promoted to regional manager out there in Walmart distribution out in Phoenix. So him and his wife, man, they out there kicking ass, and I'm proud of him, man. That is my boy. So yeah.
Nice.
I never forget that. First day, he just stared at me. Weirdest thing ever. Like, he's like, why don't you take it off? And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? The paint, why don't you just take it off? Man, what are you talking about? It just started rubbing me. Like, why ain't it coming off? Take it off. Dude, that's my skin. Leave me alone, weirdo. It's weird, man. Oh my God, bro. 25 years. 2000. What? That was what? Basic training 2000. We went in June 2002. Oh my God, we're old.
Yeah.
We're
22
old.
years.
God.
Yep. I went to basic 2 years before you, and I'm still in.
Oh my God. What happened, man?
Yeah. The world keeps turning, it keeps spinning. It's just keeps moving.
A commander made me read a book once. Not to get off too subject, but he made me read a book once.
This is what freestyle is.
Yeah, I know, right? We were soldiers once and young. I think that's the title of the book, right?
It is.
And reading it as a young soldier, I was like, this is the dumbest book ever. What do you mean we were soldiers once and young? I was like, what does it mean? Like, we're young and we're soldiers. It's stupid. But now looking back on it, I'm like, God, that book was so profound. Like, I wish I could have grasped then all the nuggets that they were trying to bestow on me now. So now, even when I see young soldiers, man, I always recommend, please read that book, man, and just try to pick one nugget from that book. That book is such a jewel, man. But either way, now I'm just an old dude. Yeah.
No, and that's the thing. There's several military books like that, but that one, I mean, to go in and then within a matter of days go from never having fired your weapon to literally like putting a little flag on top of the pile of bodies.
Crazy, right?
As they're taking off, and that was just that was the start of it. That was just the start of it. So, and then and then to think, he's going in. What was he? What was more? Was he a light colonel when they went in?
Yeah, he was. I think he was either a light colonel or promotable. I think at that point,
I think it was a light colonel. But to go from light colonel to having an entire post renamed after you, that's a pretty good career.
Just absolutely phenomenal guy, man.
When I die, they're likely to do a porta-john in my name, and that's about it.
If we're lucky. If we're lucky.
It could be worse. It could be the O'Neill Memorial DMV. No. Make it the porta-john. Go back to the porta-john.
Oh, man, yeah. Did you see there's another hurricane?
Actually, the Augusta, let me say something. The Augusta DMV here, though, is actually great. They get you in and out really quick.
Really?
Never had any problem. Yes, the DMV here, wonderful. I've been to the San Antonio DMV when I took my daughter, and it took forever. And then we got up there and they're like, sorry, you can't have a photocopy of your birth certificate. You need the actual birth certificate. I'm like, wait, why would I want to bring that in? All you're going to do is make a copy of it. So we had to leave and come back. And yeah, the one here is all the information. You go in, got a number. I think I was in the tags place. I was in there for 10 or 15 minutes. And with Alex to get his learner's permit, I mean, the biggest, and it was pretty full, but I think we were in there for less than an hour, including him taking his test. So you get a license. Yeah, it's great. But boy, yeah. So we didn't have a whole lot planned tonight. It was more, what are we just going to talk about? We have a debate going tomorrow night. I did not realize the debate was tomorrow night. Wait, isn't it tomorrow night?
Tuesday.
Oh, tomorrow's the 30th. That's right. I didn't realize that debate was even happening until a couple of days ago, when I kind of just randomly thought, are the vice president candidates going to have a debate? And I saw that, and it made me think about. So KG and I went to the Dodgers Braves game a couple of weeks ago.
We did,
and
my Braves get absolutely slaughtered 2 nights in a row.
And we missed the Ohtani 50-50 by 2 days. So we're in the stands, and we leave a little bit early. My son had it with baseball. He'd had 2 days of baseball, which is, he'd watched a total of, I think, about 13 innings over the 2 days, which is about 10 innings more than he's ever sat and watched at any point. If I can get him through a couple he knows how bad Chris Taylor is, though. It's funny. Chris Taylor came up a couple nights ago with 2 guys on base. He goes, well, that'll be the end of that. So Chris Taylor is just like his least, I don't know. It's like his favorite player to rag on. He's the only one of the few guys he knows. So as we're walking back, we go through this parking lot, we cut through, and there's these people coming out of, I guess it was a small arena convention center type thing. It was like a business building that you could tell.
Top Galleria.
Is that what it's called? Okay. Yeah. So it's like a little conference center. And these people are walking out. Now, I'd been warned by my buddy that I was staying with, hey, JD Vance is going to be in town. You might have some traffic issues because of how they travel. Okay. And it was no problems. And we're walking out, and these guys are coming out. Most of them are in, suits, and they're not full on tight, but they've kind of stripped down. It's like, okay, the event's over. We can chill a little bit.
Yeah.
And I jokingly said to him, hey, that wasn't the Vance event, was it? And the dude goes, yeah, as a matter of fact, it was. Well, crap. Well, that's where we should have gone. Screw the baseball game. We should have snuck in that sucker. Raise your hand. Hey, any of you questions? I got one. We have a podcast. Will you come on?
That would have been dope. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, I would have loved to get a question for him. But so I want you to tell everybody what your question was, and then I'm going to follow up with something because of that.
Yeah.
You remember what your question was?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I had to put my sticker. My daughter gave me a sticker for doing good today. It's a top hat sticker.
Nice.
So, so if I had one question to ask JD Vance, I would ask him, how would you relate to a black undecided voter? Why, convince me. I am a black undecided voter. Why should I vote for you? And that in the simplest terms, how do I relate to you? Okay. And I think that would give him an opportunity to explain himself.
So I've been listening to some different podcasts and all, and I think I told you guys about Joe Rogan having a guy named Eric Weinstein on.
Weinstein is weird.
Yeah. So somehow I got on this other podcast with Chris Williamson. I don't know who Chris Williamson is. He's a British, pretty big podcaster, I guess, right? And he had Eric on, and I saw a clip of it. And if this gets to Eric Weinstein and he wants to come on, please come on our show. We could use, just coming in, you'd probably triple our viewership, which is currently at 1. So,
but TikTok we're at 700-800 consistently.
Yeah. So share your friends TikTok. So he came on and he was talking about, he was invited to a 3-day. Now Eric Weinstein is a self-avowed liberal Democrat, right? And I think he would be what's called a traditional liberal Democrat now, not what we know as, he thinks AOC, from what I could tell, he thinks AOC is kind of crazy. He's like, look, I grew up in a very far left household, Marxism.
He'd be traditional liberalist to what a traditional conservative would be to the MAGA movement, if that makes sense, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good point, because I am a traditional conservative. I am not a MAGA conservative.
Right.
I don't think there is such a thing as a MAGA conservative. And actually, I'm a conservative libertarian. But so the way he's talking about it, and the question that got it going was Kamala Harris's how does she say it? To be unburdened by what was to what could become. she has a little glitch in her system that she says that, and there's some videos out there, ignore what get past
Oh
what
yeah,
it was.
the quote.
Yeah. And so Williamson asked him about it, and he's like, that's like from Marxism. That it's the idea of like when Mao came into China and they wiped out all of the intellectuals and the politicians and the professors and all that, because it's about coming in and rebuilding your country in a new way. Like you have to get rid of the old to bring in the new. And to me, that's really scary, honestly, about Harris. But that's not what I wanted to say. Was as he was talking, he said, I was invited to this retreat, and here I am, this liberal Democrat, and I was the only guy who has voted Democrat, has ever voted Democrat, and these guys are all Republican. Like, and there's probably nobody that's even considered voting Democrat in this group. But what they were talking about was how to fix the country and how to help poor people, how to help poor Black people, poor white people, the middle class, and really make a difference. And he said, look, I can't imagine that for 3 days they put on this show for little old Eric Weinstein, right? Because these guys were serious, and J.D. Vance was part of that. And he said, there's a difference between the J.D. Vance now who's out on the stump versus when you get him one-on-one. And I've met him multiple times. I know him pretty well. And he cares. He legitimately cares about where he grew up, about the people that are struggling, about the addictions, about all that stuff. And I don't really recognize the J.D. Vance now that's on the campaign trail. And I get that. Like, you and I have talked about this, where do you really believe that Kamala Harris supports fracking? Because on the campaign trail, she says, oh yeah, fracking is great. We need fracking. Do I personally believe that she believes that? No, not a chance. She's said too much in the past and the way she has acted. So, but you say what you need to say and I don't blame her, because you say what you need to say on the campaign trail to get elected, and then you do what you can. And Trump is probably the best example of that.
Yep.
I'm going to get rid of the Department of Energy. I'm going to get rid of the Department of Education, all this stuff. And it's why it cracks me up when people say, well, if Trump wins, it's the end of democracy. He's going to be a dictator. It's like, why wasn't he a dictator 6 years ago then? Why do you think that would suddenly now? He's not. If he wins, I don't think either candidate is going to win with a level of it's a mandate, right? 270 to win. I don't know if there's a set number, but I would think 350 or higher is more of a mandate. Like you have a mandate to really kind of change the country.
I don't think Trump survives the year if he's elected.
So we get into that, but
I'll get to that.
That's something that's something that Eric Weinstein said as well. Okay, and so that's part one is J.D. Vance. And if you guys want to just go in and Google. I want to give you Williamson's. Most of you guys, if you're watching this, probably know Chris Williamson and Eric Weinstein. His full Modern Wisdom is his podcast. Okay, so if you find the most recent Eric Weinstein one, fast forward to about the 3-hour mark. You think we have long podcasts? Go to about the 3-hour mark. It's about 3 minutes, 3 hour, 3:05 right in there is when he really starts talking about the politics.
Yep.
And he brings up, I don't remember in that part earlier, he talks about how the system is built to weed out populist candidates. It is not there to have somebody come in from the outside. Lincoln was the last populist to some degree. And Trump is like the only guy who's ever been elected in the U.S. in modern history, because you could go Washington, obviously, but who was not in the government before being elected. And so he's outside of the system. Mm-hmm. And the system is built. Think about the world and don't think about it although you can think about it in the nefarious New World Order type, the world government and all that stuff. But even if you think of it in terms of basic governance and basic understanding of the world, the U.S. has to support. Think who does the U.S. have to support? Great Britain, Israel, the Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, China to some degree, Taiwan to a large degree, Japan, Australia, South Africa, different parts of South America, different parts of Egypt. If it works out for them, I think the U.S. has actually really missed out on Africa, and China has been incredibly aggressive in Africa in a way that we have not. It's very similar to what the Saudi Wahhabists did by going in and building all the schools throughout the Middle East, and that's why we have the brand of Wahhabism and ISIS and all that we do. So Trump is outside of that. And if Trump comes in and legitimately, like, you remember when Trump said, hey, why are we paying all the bills? We pay, and he was off by a little bit, we pay 70% of all the bills for the UN. Well, it's not quite that high, but it's definitely higher than one country's share. And he said in NATO, and you remember the debates, I got them to pay up. And Kamala Harris was like, oh, you didn't do anything. They hate you. It's like, no, he got them to pay up. Let's be real fair. Trump did some stuff on the international stage that Biden didn't do, that Obama didn't do, that Bush didn't do. You go back, Reagan.
She didn't lie. They do hate him.
Now, let me ask you this. Do they hate him? Do they hate him? And if they do they hate him, but they are forced to respect him? Forced to respect him.
So remember when I told you, I think it was a week ago, it might be 2 weeks ago. Yes. I said, hey, I'm going to send you a post. I said, when I give you my thoughts on Trump, I said, I'm probably going to get banned. I've been thinking about this a while, and I've come to turn my thoughts on Trump, right? And I at first I was like, all right, Trump he was valuable in 2016, right? He was valuable, right? Everybody loved him. He was a populist and he was great, right? But then
I don't know if everybody loved him.
Well, I mean, they loved him because they thought they could use him. But then they realized
define they.
Well, them. I can't define they because they are undefinable, right? So them, they, those.
The powers that be?
Those in control, right?
Okay.
And
what do we call them? We've called them the cabal, I think, is what
we've called them quite a few. So they put people in his cabinet to keep a thumb on him. And those in his cabinet who've tried to keep a thumb on him, Trump quickly was like, look, dude, no, bye, right? And that didn't work out. So I told you, right? And I told you.
And since then, what have those people that he hit to the curb, what have they done?
Right. And I told you with the JD Vance pick, I said, that's a little suspicious. I was like, I don't think that was Trump's pick. I said, I don't think that's a Trump guy. I said, I think that pick was pushed on him at the last minute. And shortly thereafter, we had the assassination attempt. And I said, okay, it's uncharacteristic. I was like, yeah, the first one. I said, it's uncharacteristic for Democrats progressives to assassinate people, right? Democrats, no matter how much they dislike a political opponent, it is uncharacteristic of them to go to that level, right? But I started thinking about it, and I said, okay,
is it?
Yeah. And I started to think about it. I mean, you think about it, right?
When you say Democrats, real quick,
so
when you say Democrats don't do that, are we talking about the Democratic leadership that are traditionally in power?
No.
Are we talking about the average Democrat?
We're talking about the average Joe next door neighbor, like, oh, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican. Like, I hate Trump, but I'm not gonna. at Trump.
And the reason I push back is I think we've seen more violence from the Democrats.
No. Hold on.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Keep going.
I'm gonna get to my point.
Okay.
So one thing I've noticed, and then given my background and my new career field, I do a lot of research in writing, right? And I've noticed one of these things with conspiracy theories, you need a scapegoat, right? And it makes sense, right? Trump is more valuable now as a martyr than he is as a president, right? His brand, Trump, you've seen him on the campaign trail, you've seen him in debates, you've seen him at rallies. Trump can get a little unhinged mentally, right? He maybe has a year, maybe a year and a half, to where his cognitive decline is probably going to be waned off. Now, if I knew that I can use Trump as a catalyst, right? So let's just say I can set Trump up to be killed, and I can blame it on my political adversary. I can then position the next man, the man that I want in that position, as the heir apparent, and still set my agenda up and get everything I needed accomplished. So to me, it looks more like, it's weird to say, it looks more like a mob hit, right? Like a setup from the underboss. And I'm not saying JD Vance did it, but it looks like a mob hit. It looks like an inside job to where he was set up by somebody inside his own party to be used as a catalyst. So they're going to turn Trump into a martyr. And then even if you think the dude that shot at him this time, right? The one in the golf course, right? The first thing they said, oh, it's the Democrats with the rhetoric, right? It's the Democrats with the rhetoric. Come to find out, it's a damn Pakistani dude with Iranian ties.
Wait, what?
He's a Pakistani national with ties to Iran.
The white guy that had been in Ukraine and all that, he was Pakistani?
August 6, 2024, the Justice Department charged a Pakistani man who has alleged ties to the Iranian government with seeking to carry out the political assassination of President Trump.
And you didn't send me that?
I thought you knew. Been a lot going on, man.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so the guy
3 days ago,
the guy who shot at Trump, the second one, who was at the golf course.
He's being paid by the Iranians. It's being paid by the Iranians. So that's why Trump, because remember,
is he a U.S. citizen?
He's still a U.S. citizen. Remember, the reason I started looking it up, because I remember Trump said something at his rally that piqued my interest. I was listening to him, and he was like, if I was the president and another country tried to shoot at me, I would blow that country back. I was like, man, that's so unhinged. Where in the hell did that come from? So I started looking up, and that's the reason why. So Iran has been plotting to kill Trump all summer. And further back, if you Google it, just Google Iranian involvement in Trump assassination. And it's been all summer, you'll see Trump's been getting he's been getting briefings from U.S. intelligence about the Iranian assassination threats all summer. So I don't know why, but they've hacked into his campaign. They've been trying to knock his head off. And I got to think, okay, that kind of makes sense. Blame it on.
Let me ask you this. So I did what you just said.
Yeah.
I Googled Iranian involvement in the
Trump
assassination. And I'm going to read where these come from because I think that's important. The Washington Post 3 days ago, and these are just the headlines. Trump without evidence suggests possible Iranian involvement in 2 assassination attempts. From Reuters, 4 days ago, Trump implicates Iran without evidence in assassination attempts against him. BBC, 4 days ago, Trump campaign says U.S. intelligence warned of Iran assassination threat. Al Jazeera, Trump briefed on alleged assassination threats from Iran. Al Jazeera, that's an interesting one there.
You'll be reporting
that. Because Al Jazeera actually is a news organization in the Middle East that pushes propaganda. Yeah. Really? Al Jazeera, you want to get some good information, go to Al Jazeera. I mean, they have a hard slant against the U.S. and against Israel. But as far as Middle East news, yeah, that's where a lot of the open source comes from as far as the Middle East goes. Yeah. So it doesn't have anything. So it says there's all this stuff. And then there's your threat. U.S. should threaten to blow Iran to smithereens for threats. Trump suggests Iran was involved in both assassination attempts, causing FBI to hack suspects' phones. But you're saying that the Trump assassination, Trump attempted assassination was a Pakistani.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't Pakistani. He was financed by, and apparently he'd been in communication with representatives from Pakistan and Iran. I got to send you that information.
Okay. See, now that would make more sense because Ryan Roth, he shot at him.
Yeah, he wasn't Pakistani. No, he's
that's what I was hearing. Okay. Yeah. So him being financed by some shady underground because he had links to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So there's all that stuff. So let me ask you this then. In your timeline of Trump being better off as a martyr to the powers that be, the powers that want to, I don't even know if it would be behind the Republicans so much as the corporate.
How dangerous how dangerous you think he is to the world market? If he really was to impose those tariffs, he could literally crash the world market, man. Like you just said, you know how many?
Haven't you heard tariffs don't matter? Haven't you heard? we just pay the tariffs as if nothing happens.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
As if, and the American people are being lied to their faces by the media and by the Harris campaign. And most people are not savvy enough or understand things like tariffs enough to realize what you just said. Things like tariffs. If China, I've said this for now 20 years since I took an economics class, actually almost 30 years now. I took an economics class and my professor was, I don't remember what country, he was from Africa, right? And he was talking to the class and he was talking about tariffs. And he says, if the United States was ever serious about getting out of debt and the deficit, not out of debt, but the deficit, really truly reducing the deficit, all they'd have to do is put on, I believe they're called mirror tariffs, which is basically, all right, China, we're going to put the exact same tariffs on you that you have on us.
Yeah.
Because what certain countries would do, like, especially with things like produce, there's an economic story with lettuce, where you have an entire shipment of lettuce come in from Mexico and it hits the port in the US or Cuba or Brazil or whatever. And the inspectors come in and they go, well, we don't really want this lettuce to come in. So, you know what? We're not going to inspect it today.
Yep.
And we're not going to inspect it tomorrow. And a week later they come and they go, okay, hey, we're ready to inspect the lettuce and it's all spoiled.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Too bad. I guess we can't let it in our market. It's not good. So I agree with you in terms of Trump is a threat, not only to the economic side of it. I think Trump is a threat to truly the world order being the way it is.
Absolutely.
And now that we're talking about it, and I'm starting to kind of think of some puzzle pieces right now. Why is Israel doing what Israel is doing right now? They've done the pager campaign. They've done the cell phone campaign. They just wiped out Hezbollah leadership. Now, if you were being serious and you said, well, Hezbollah, they only did it now because this was their only opportunity to. Really? So in a matter of a week, they took out their entire leadership tree, like every single one of them, and they've only figured that out a week before now? Really? Israel, not to mention, you remember Israel killed, it was Hamas's leaders by tracking him into the hotel safe house.
Yeah.
They'd had explosives in his room 6 months
in
ago.
Iran.
In Iran. Yeah. So, and then they launched the missile at Yemen. So why?
Yep.
Okay. So now we go down the decision tree, right?
Yep.
Is Israel doing all this because A, they want Harris to win and they think Harris will win, and that's a good thing for them? Or B, they don't want Harris to win and they don't think it's a good thing for them, and so they're trying to get stuff done beforehand. And you can add that in. There's like the 4, right? Trump, Harris, Trump good, Harris good, Trump bad, Harris bad results. Right. I think Israel might be doing this all right now, in part because they're going, there's no one in the U.S. that's going to stop us.
Yeah.
We've had to worry about the president, President Biden coming back, and he's been kind of snarky with Netanyahu and all that, but there's nobody running the ship right now.
It's like the engine's on, but nobody behind the wheel. So
we are currently that giant shipping container that is going down the Chesapeake Bay, and we're all hoping it doesn't run into the pylon of the bridge and it all comes crashing down on us, right?
When it first started, I said Israel's like that cousin that you invite to the party that had a couple of extra drinks, and if you're not careful, they can get real crazy. And I told you they're just right there. They just unchecked. Yeah.
And he's the one who's also armed to the gills.
Exactly. And what can you say? They family. So you're just like, I can't really say nothing. It's like, yo, that's my family. So I can't really say, And then if they ask you, you'd be like, well, where did he get the weapons from? You'd be like,
oh, weapons. I mean, the weapons are U.S. made weapons.
That's what I'm saying.
And but here's the thing: whether Israel got the weapons 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
But let's look at something here, just from a professional soldier point of view. Okay, nothing the morality of it, nothing the politics of it. On this 1 to 10, 1 being you done fucked up, and a 10 being that is a knockout blow. You could not do any better than you've done militarily. Where do you put Israel on what they've done over the past 2 weeks? And include the wind down in Gaza. Where do you put them?
I don't know.
Militarily only.
I still think they've shown restraint. Like I don't think they've done what they could have. Because like if they really wanted to, like they could have like unleashed hell in the region, and they have not. Like they what they've done is they're using their targeting cells, right, and they're hitting HVTs, right. So they're not they're just
high value targets for those of you who don't know what HVT.
They're just using strike cells right now, so they're not like indiscriminately bombing anything. They're just taking targets of opportunity, and it looks devastating. Because they're doing it with extreme precision. As a targeteer, you can't do nothing but sit back and like shed a tear because you're like, yo, these dudes are, you know what I'm saying? Like as an artilleryman, you're like, yeah. As an artilleryman, you're like, yo,
yeah.
These dudes make you proud. Be like, yo, that's
right. I'm not sitting here going, look, if they dropped a nuclear weapon on Yemen, that would be a 10. I think that would actually be. That would be like a 5 because, like, you'd be like, all
right, now wait a minute. That's all right. You'd be like, all right,
that's a bad. Yeah. So, like what did they do in a matter of 2+ weeks? And I'm going to include the wind down in Gaza because they've taken the focus away from Gaza where they were getting killed in the press, right?
Exactly.
Not that they really care about what the press, but they took Gaza off of the table as far as the news cycle. That's a 10 out of 10 for Israel. They blew up pagers with a minimal number of deaths, but a high number of casualties, which now overwhelms their hospitals, their doctors, and you lose a hand, you lose an appendix, you lose a hip, you are damaged goods for the next.
Just the mensuration of it all was just like, these dudes.
They
executed it to perfection. And then the beauty of it is like you got a text, you got the pager went off with a text, so you had to go in and check it first before it blew off. As a targeteer, you're just like, oh my God. Like it's like this is how we drew it up when we wrote the textbook, man. Beautiful execution. I'm sorry.
And not only that, but like the pagers were from a quote unquote company in Taiwan that hadn't made those pagers in like 5 years. So Israel was able to go in, get these pagers, modify them, and then sell them to the enemy. Sell them, not give. Sell them to the enemy, and then blow them up with them.
But do you know what disrupted? They came back 3 days later, and they did the same exact thing with the walkie-talkies. I was like, you know what? Y'all showing out now. I was like, you know what? That's too much. I was like,
showing off.
I was like,
now you're just showing off.
Yeah, I was like, you know what, you guys. I was like, man, it's so beautiful when you see those TTPs work, man. You're just like, these dudes. It's like being a dad watching your kid hit his first home run, and you're just like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you want to feel bad for the team, for the other team, but you're just like, oh my God, it just worked so beautifully.
But not just that. It's not just that your kid hit the home run. It's that you're sitting there going, they won't even let me play anymore.
Yeah.
I can't play, but at least I can watch through him.
Yeah, you can watch it, and that's what I try to tell people. Like, people don't understand. Like, they be like, oh, well, the U.S. government, this, that, and that. I was like, you have no idea the sophistication of the weaponry that the United States has. We have our weaponry that we don't even use anymore. That's obsolete now. It's so far advanced that we just give it away and we just watch other people play with it. Like, you have no freaking idea. So to see it work, and that's technology from like the late 90s. Pagers are like from the late 90s, and people are like, I'm like, man, just think about it. Pagers. We are talking about pagers.
Not guns. Not guns.
That's what I'm saying.
Not guns.
Not guns. These were pagers and walkie-talkies. If people only knew, like, and that's why I say Americans don't get it. They don't get it. An American can get it, but a citizen can understand it. But Americans as a whole, they don't get it, and they're too blinded. They're too distracted to understand it.
Well, and here's the other part of it. We keep electing people that would not say go to that operation. There is not a single candidate. I'm not sure there is a single person in government today at the federal level that if they came to that person, senator, representative, president, whatever, SCOTUS member, and they said, we have a operation in place that will completely disrupt all of the cartel intelligence. It will blow up pagers. It will kill, we estimate it will kill between 2 and 3% of the people. However, there obviously there could be some casualties that were not intended, but we have a high confidence that it would kill somewhere. It would take somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 pieces off the board, and it would effectively win the war against the cartels, because then we would follow it up afterwards with a secondary strike by using what they would switch to after they switch off their pagers.
Yeah.
They would go in and we're going to then pop their cell phones. And that's going to kill another, 2 to 3% of the cartel. It's going to wound another couple thousand, blah, blah, blah. But we need somebody to sign off on it because, hey, we're a civilian government and we need somebody to do this. And The intelligence, everything is there. It's all set up. We need to go. I do not have any faith that Joe Biden would say go, that
Absolutely.
Kamala Harris would say go, that Nancy Pelosi would say go, that Lindsey Graham would say go, that Scott would say no, go, that there's just so few. I could see Trump though going, it'll be huge. Do it.
But see, that's what I was having this conversation with some fellas in the barbershop when we were talking about the war on drugs, right? And we were talking about how the United States lost the war on drugs. And I tried to explain to him. I said the United States did not lose the war on drugs. I said there is not a war that the United States has lost in its existence. I said you got to understand, we do not lose wars. We win war. Our strategy it's not about wins and losses. Our strategy is about economic influence, right? That's how we decide whether we win wars. I said the war on drugs was about geographic influence in the area. I was like, do you really think that we could not stop a drug cartel coming across our border, like with the immigrants? Do you really think we can't stop an immigrant? I said, dude, think about it. We can mass an entire army anywhere in the world within 96
hours.
I said, dude, we went from Kuwait to the capital of Iraq. Iraq. We did that in less than in 72 hours.
78 hours, yeah.
That's a plus or minus. I said, we toppled an entire nation. I said, make no mistake about it, guy. You're dealing with the most lethal fighting force known to history of the man. If we want something done, it'll get done. I said, if. The thing is, if. You have to understand what is the economic impact, right? When you follow the money, then you'll understand the results, right? There are kickbacks upon kickbacks, right? We get paid off of that stuff. I was like, and when it becomes no longer economically viable, then we'll stop it. Until then, ride the wave.
But it's also got to be. It's also got to have the moral wherewithal to do it. You want to close the border? Here, easiest way in the world. I'm telling you, you would not have to change a single thing right now, except for the rules of engagement. You change the ROEs, and you say every border patrol, you see somebody coming across the border illegally, you double tap them, two to the chest, one to the head. The border shuts in a matter of minutes, hours. I mean, literally, it is closed.
So you think
there would not be.
Think about it, right? So we talked about cocaine, right? We talked. When was cocaine popular, right? I want to say what, 60s,
mid 80s,
70s, 60s,
mid 80s.
No, heroin was 60s, 70s, right?
Sure.
I want to get my timelines right. I want to get my time.
Well,
right.
so early on it was pot, and then it was LSD. It was the the psychedelics.
Because
alcohol. So it was alcohol all the way through the 60s. Then pot and psychedelics through the 60s and 70s. Hippies. Coke came in the 80s. Crack came in the early 80s, and then fast forward to probably the 2000s where the opioid really hit, and that's when the heroin came from, the opioid.
So let's match that up to where the wars were in the world, right? Cocaine comes from where? Coca leaf.
Sure.
That comes from where?
Colombia and coca leaf, yeah.
And where were we fighting in the 80s?
Gee, it's almost like we were fighting down there with the Contras and all that stuff. The
weird, right?
Schedule and
weird, right?
Yeah, weird.
And then in the 2000s, I heard something about something's really popular in Afghanistan, isn't it? They got
poppies. Really, don't they have like 70 or 80 or 90% of all the poppy plants in the world come from Afghanistan? I believe it's a incredibly high percentage.
And then, weirdly enough, we began getting an epidemic of opioids, I believe.
So the opioids, though, The opioids happen pharmaceutically. There's some really good books on that.
Well,
I'd have to
how they
look up
get
the
access
titles,
to it?
but there are
Yeah,
some really good.
how they get
Say
access
again?
to it? How they get access to it though?
To the opioids?
Yeah.
Because you had the pain meds. So the pharmaceutical companies
Yeah,
absolutely did this. Yeah.
yeah, no, but
Uh,
you think those poppy seeds, you think those poppy fields were just given to us, or you think
well,
those guys in
so
Afghanistan was just
those
going to get access to them?
a little bit different. So okay, so you're conflating two different things. You're
Oh,
conflating opioids and heroin being the
oh
same
no, no,
things.
no, not heroin. No, heroin is different.
Yeah. So, well, not really. Morphine and heroin are like that much different. No, really, no. They're almost like there's like one tiny little compound that's different between morphine and heroin. But the pharmaceuticals, and I have the books. I'm trying to remember what they're called. I have them in my reading list, but one of them is about the family that owned the company that made OxyContin, right?
Mhm.
And they basically went out and they realized that OxyContin was just a huge moneymaker because people are in pain and these opioids stop pain. And they didn't do anything outside of saying, hey, it stops pain. As doctors, you guys should prescribe this. It's safe, it's safe, it's safe. And they didn't care if it was safe. They didn't know if it was safe. Actually, the Supreme Court just went back and ruled that the bankruptcy plan that had been originally agreed to was void because they're like, no, we're not going to let this family that did this walk off with billions and billions of dollars, even if the government gets to keep all the company, right? So then as the government went, well, wait a minute, these opioids are actually really, really bad and they're very addictive, despite what we were told by the company. And people couldn't get it. Suddenly the black tar heroin from Mexico started coming up. Now, the cartels and all that get the black the poppies to make the black tar heroin? Look, there's a global trade of drugs. The money that's involved is staggering. So they were able to just buy it from Afghanistan, from the warlords and whatever, and then they turned around and they were able to basically bring heroin into the U.S. to make up for the deficit when they were shutting down these pill mills. I remember in the book there's one guy who was doing something like 200 prescriptions a day. There were just lines, and this is in Appalachia. This is where the heart of it happened, and that's why J.D. Vance, to get back to Vance a little bit. That's why. Now I haven't read his book, but that was a big thing. I guess his mom had an addiction to opioids because
She overdosed or passed away from opioids, right, or something like that.
Almost did. She's alive still.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. They did this, and the government at first. I mean, the U.S. government, like you said, okay, it's about the money, right? So if the U.S. government's going, well, yeah, it seems fine, cool. Why? Why is it fine? Because for every pill that's sold, they get a tax, and they get a percentage of the pills. It's just like oil and like anything else. The U.S. government's like, hey, where's our cut? We didn't do anything for this, but we want some. It's as corrupt as your house. Like, what if you pay your house off and you pay your mortgage off? Why are you still paying property tax? Did you buy the land or not? We don't own shite in this country. We don't own a thing. So you go to China, if you own land, you own land, but you own land until they come and take it away from you at the point of a gun. In the US, they just come and take it away at the point of your checkbook, right? And if they want it, I mean, like realistically, your house, wherever you are, if they said, hey, we're going to build a throughway for the new freeway, and your house is in the way, and you go, well, no, I don't want to move. And they'll say, okay, great, but we're taking an eminent domain. It's ours now. We think we think your house is worth 300,000. You're going, that's not fair. And they said, well, yeah, we looked and that is fair. And you're like, but I could sell it for 450. Yeah, but that's not fair. That's not actual market value. You think you can. And so ironically in China, Nail House, go look up Nail House. It's they're going to build that. They go and they buy all the government buys all the land because they want to do a new development or whatever. And there are these individual people like, F you, I'm not selling. And there will be a road, a freeway built around the house, the one little house, because the guy's like, this is my land. I'm not moving. And ironically, the Chinese government won't actually go and take him out.
Yeah.
So when you talk about all this stuff and the drug trade and like you were saying with the money and all that, yeah, it's absolutely about the money. So if Trump comes in, I do think this time, and this is what scares the Democrats, even though they won't say it this way, they'll say, I'm scared that Trump is going to come in and break the system and it's going to ruin America. Not realizing that, ironically, Trump coming in and breaking the system is probably the healthiest thing that can happen for this country. This country needs to be shaken up. It needs to be, it needs the veil of lies and the veil of lies taken down. You sent me a video earlier and it said, and the line that I took out of it was, the longer I work for the federal government, the less I trust it. And I agree with that. I've been in the Army for 24 years. You think I trust the military? You think I trust the federal government? Heck no. And I'll only say this because, hey, look, I have limitations as far as what I can say. Do I trust that individual commanders are doing their best in the position they're in? Absolutely. I absolutely think they are. That said, when people say things like, well, we should listen to these, there's 200 ex generals and admirals that have signed on to support Harris. It's like, so how many do you think would support Trump? But they're worried that their jobs will be cut because the Democrats are in power right now. And they don't, there's no such thing as an apolitical general. They are political. They have to be. It's the same joke as when anybody in the military hears a Ford truck is military grade. Every one of us goes, I don't want that then. We want the thing that's barely going to work by the lowest paid bidder who can maybe come in and make it work. And then we have to figure out how, when it breaks down, to keep it running on a shoestring budget. I don't want military grade. I want, I want whatever Silicon Valley grade is or whatever that is. I want them coming in and doing stuff that is going to make it better for us. Like whatever Israel's doing. Again, Israel's not even using top of the line stuff. They're using second generation now or whatever, a generation old, and they're doing this. But we as Americans don't have the right mindset to win a war. Okay. We will win every battle we're in. We don't win wars anymore. We're not in the business of winning wars anymore. You ask the average soldier what their job is, and they will say probably some gobbledygook. You ask KJ and I, KJ, what was your job when you were in the Army?
Killing.
What was the purpose of your job and of the military?
Killing.
Yep.
Killing.
Break things and kill people and break things and win the wars of the United States.
I
just don't think that's the case
anymore.
My first
sergeant said, you got one of two jobs. Your primary job is to make sure that you come home to your family. Your second job is to make sure that son of a bitch laying across from you doesn't go home to his.
Yep.
That's it.
I don't believe that's. I do not believe that is taught in the government in the Army anymore.
It is absolutely not, and that is where we're gonna. I mean, eventually we'll get back to it, just not right now. I mean, there have been, historically there have been ebbs and flows.
Sure.
Right after that. So the point I was trying to make. So in Vietnam, we had a heroin epidemic, right? And then when in the 80s we had the war on drugs, when we had the Contra,
Iran
Reagan and his exploits, right? So we had the cocaine and the crack thing kick off, and then we kind of came back to the heroin and meth thing that popped off with Afghanistan. So you kind of see the correlation where we tend to get involved in these areas, and then I guess weird coincidences happen to where we get these weird drug epidemics that kind of explode. I don't know how it happens, just just coincidences, right? We have major conflicts in the region, then all of a sudden drugs or just happen to flow back to the States, and we end up having a huge segment of our population getting addicted. Maybe there's something to it, maybe there isn't. It's just one of those weird things that I've noticed, weird patterns, right?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that I was just, so Liberty just brought this up. I was about to say the same thing, was that fentanyl. That's the other part of this whole thing with fentanyl, is fentanyl coming across the border, but it doesn't just come across the border. I had a drug dealer in my unit, KJ, in our unit. You remember Sergeant W?
Yeah,
who was the drug dealer who killed the soldier.
Yeah.
He and his little group. Yeah, and they were doing fentanyl. They were putting mixing fentanyl with alcohol, which apparently was a thing. And one of the soldiers apparently had a drink, 22 years old, fell asleep, didn't wake up ever. And then they couldn't really do anything because they were doing the investigation, trying to figure out. And then they had a party, and they almost, like, two of them overdosed. Again, almost died. He almost died. Yeah. And then he did die. The main dealer, I think he was getting the stuff from China, is what, dark web stuff.
Yeah.
So there's always a way. Like, I've always thought it was very, very strange in the U.S. If I wanted to, okay, KJ, if you wanted to buy a gun from me, and we were talking and saying, hey, I've got extra, I've got a 9mm, you've come down here, you're 5mm, but I really don't want to drive up to your house. It's just too far away. I'm going to throw it in a UPS box, wrap it up, and send it to you. Okay. If I had a connection in Miami, and I said, and this is what maybe there's something in the post office, I don't know, that maybe I just don't know about it. But if I said, hey, buddy, in Miami, I'm having a big party in a couple weeks. I could use maybe, 10 grams of cocaine. Can you just send it up to me? I got to figure he could throw it in a UPS or a FedEx or USPS even, and it would get up here. It's got to all be just like you pack it the right way. I don't know why any other package. So what stops a dark web guy getting an order for Chinese manufactured fentanyl in pill form, no less? It doesn't have to be powder. You can crush it up as pill form. And it says, hey, I need 100 pills at whatever the cost is, $10 a pill. I'm just making up numbers.
Yeah.
But here's your $1,000 on dark web, PayPal type, whatever, however you do it. And he mails it to me. How do you stop that from getting in the country?
You pay in crypto, man. You don't pay with that. You pay.
Oh, well, crypto. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well, I said PayPal. Crypto. I don't know.
Saying, man, we gotta step your criminal enterprise up, man. You a slack.
Right? Yeah.
No.
I'm still thinking like Walter White.
So there are. You can't stop criminal enterprises from being criminals. It's just you can't. And Lib, it's always good to see you, man. Welcome back. And no, I don't. It's going to implicate whoever's in the seat, right? Biden and Harris is just as guilty as Clinton, is just as guilty as Obama, is just as guilty as Reagan, and so on and so forth, and yada yada yada. Everybody at the top is guilty because they all turn a blind eye, as long as it's economically feasible and as long as it stays out of their neighborhood, right? So it's the cost of business.
And that's exactly why Trump is a threat.
Yeah, and that's
why JD Vance is a threat too. You think the powers that be? Okay, so KJ, let's go with your tin hat theory. They want JD Vance in there. Why? Well, JD Vance, you really think JD Vance is going to roll over for the drug cartel? I don't. After what it's done to his family, I just don't buy it. Oh, apparently, you have a different opinion.
Hmm?
I mean, there's other ways to make money, right?
There are. But you got so. I would like to believe, right? And you know how I feel about our SCOTUSes, right? I would like to believe at one point they went into that position with the best intentions, right? Our SCOTUSes went into that position with the ideals of being incorruptible, infallible, right? And holding up the ideals that they believe, right? That they stand for. I'm going to defend the Constitution, and there's no way I'm going to put myself in any compromising positions. And I believe every politician, every civil servant, every person who's ever taken an oath to defend the country or serve this country has all taken that same, has all started with that same ideological belief, right? I am going to do the best I can, and there is no way I'm going to put my credibility or my ideals on the line, right? Until I am presented with an offer. What they say, an offer that you can't refuse.
Yep.
Like, what's old boy, the mayor that just got indicted in New York?
Oh, yeah, the mayor of New York. Good enough.
It's like, after a while,
Adams.
Yeah. After a while, it's constantly being thrown at you, and you got people who you trust, and again, it's all about your circle, right? You got people who you trust saying, "Hey, man, don't worry about it. We're gonna make it to where it can never come back to you, and they'll never find out, and we're gonna make sure you're taken care of." You're like, "All right, well, it's the Nixon thing all over again." We'll
KJ,
never.
let me ask you this: if you wanted to go from South Carolina to France in the safest possible way, with no threat, somebody potentially is going to gun for you, right? You have absolutely pissed off the Dutch, right? The Dutch are gunning for you specifically. How do you go from South Carolina? What's the safest way for you to go from South Carolina to Paris? Is it go out and rent a private jet? Make sure that as you're traveling between your house and the South Carolina airport you fly out of, you are in giant black Suburbans. And then when you land in Paris, that you have giant black Suburbans drive you from point A to point B, and the police escorts and all that. Or is it you have your neighbor who has a Prius drive you over to the airport, you get on a commercial flight, maybe business class, probably not first class, maybe business class, be a little upgrade. You fly, you take a taxi from Charles de Gaulle International to where you're ever, to the Louvre, and you're like, okay, now I'm here. And you just and you dress just kind of mellow like any other dude. You throw your hat on, you pull it down. When you're in the cab, you have your sunglasses on. You just kind of blend. Which is going to draw more attention?
First of all, if I'm ever threatened by a dude that wears wooden shoes, I deserve to die.
But clearly the first one the first way lets everybody know you're there, right?
Yes.
Clogs have been around longer than either of you and me, but
yep.
But why? But
yes.
Why do people then? So why do things like Governor or Mayor Adams and the powers? Why do they do it the way they do it?
Right. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense.
It does make sense. What did you just say? It's all about ego. It's all about stroking the ego. You don't think a general gets off even a little bit that he has a captain that he can basically tell to do hey, I need my shoes cleaned. And the captain's going to shine his shoes because he's the aide de camp.
Yeah.
Hey, I need you to go make sure the car's washed because we're traveling, and I want to show up and make a good impression. He's got to do that, right? So, and they can say, "Oh, well, no, there's certain things he's not supposed to run personal things." Look, if the general sends the captain over to pick up his dry cleaning, and his uniform's in the dry cleaning, but he also picks up his wife's skirts, is that against the rules? Who's going to push him on it? Come on,
Yeah.
Generals don't have to follow regulations by regulation. Like they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And so, unless somebody whistle blows, and it just doesn't happen, because if you blow that whistle, if you're the captain or somebody else, you've just shot your own career in the foot.
Yeah, that's a bad idea for you.
Yeah. I'm not going to. That's inappropriate use of government property. Yeah. Oh, okay. Have fun in Nebraska.
Yeah.
States
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, you could just go ahead. You could just go ahead and plan for your next career, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, let's go full circle now. So with that, going back to what Eric Weinstein said about JD Vance, and he actually does care when the mask is off, when he's not on the campaign trail, when he's actually being JD Vance and caring. I look at that and I go, okay, that gives me reason to be more supportive of the Trump ticket. Now, for me, again, if anybody knows, everybody by this point, I love being accused of being MAGA or whatever. Yeah. Although I was accused of being a Democrat last
time. Being a full-blooded Democrat, full-blooded, lifelong Democrat.
That's me. You got me. I have voted Democrat exactly 0 times. I voted Libertarian a couple times though. So for me, yeah, as a conservative, it's between it has to be the lesser of two evils. Now, Tim Walz, I tell you, everything I see about Tim Walz scares the crap out of me. Let alone the political stuff. Like, he's a socialist, right? What he did when his full support of BLM and the riots that destroyed his state after the George Floyd verdict, and just not taking care of his people, basically allowing Somalia West to form. And I mean, as a governor, there are certainly things you can do. And again, people coming here legally, that's absolutely fine. But I think that when you have, I believe it was, I don't know if it was Minneapolis, but I read something that said, it was probably Dearborn. No, that would be Michigan, though.
Yeah.
One of the cities up there said it was the first state that does the call to prayer over broadcast TV, and I was like, "It what now? The Muslim call to prayer? Like, I don't want that any more than I want a forced Sunday that everybody has to sit down and watch Jimmy Graham or the Tabernacle Choir or anything like that. Like, if it's available for you individually, go do it individually."
But they air church services on Sundays.
I believe they have to pay. Don't they have to pay for that?
What's that?
The church services on Sunday. I thought those were paid for.
Yeah, so
by the church, right?
Yeah, so is the Muslim. So is the Muslim.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's not. Okay. It's not free broadcast.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah,
they don't get nothing free. It's paid airtime. So
okay, never mind that. I take
it. It's just like.
What do you think about Walz? His demeanor, like there's folksy and there's campy, and then there's what he does.
I don't know.
Seems to me it seems weird. Like they've been accusing Trump, and it's weird, right?
He strikes me as like one of those dudes that you remember I don't know if you ever saw the movie Get Out, right? You ever see the movie Get Out with Jordan Peele? Did you ever watch that one?
That was one where they were they got trapped in the bodies of the old people. Yeah. Okay.
And the dad was like, if I could have, I would have voted for Obama twice.
Yeah.
He remind JD Vance. I mean, not JD Vance. Tim Walz reminds me a lot of that guy. He's like, you gotta be weary of those overly happy fucking allies, man. They're scary. They are very
Malcolm X sure was.
Yeah, they are very, 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 very scary, right? So, I'm not sold on it. I'm not, like I said, he does really well scripted. The optics of the kid and all the football team and all that stuff. He has the Americana thing down, right? But what you've seen is in those unscripted moments when you put a little pressure on him, when you apply a little pressure on him, you start to see his character come out, right? And you start to see the real Tim Walz come out, and you be like, all right, there he is. If you poke him a little bit, you start to see that pressure start to hit him, and I don't like that guy. So I don't know. This debate's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I find very, very interesting is, and I'm going to preface this by saying, yes, I understand Trump lies about things. Trump, and Trump. I think it's fair to say. Here's the thing: is it a lie if you believe it? The old thing of, could you pass a lie detector test if you believed that you were telling the truth? And I think that's Trump. I think Trump believes these things, right? And so when he says things like, I had the greatest economy in the history of economies, I think he truly believes that. Okay. But there's a difference between that and Walz saying, when I was the head football coach at wherever, and it was like, dude, you weren't the head football coach. Why? I've never understood the lying about, as a politician, the lying about the little things. And when you start looking at Walz and what he says, it's all those little lies are like screeching on the chalkboard when you add them up. Like, I was a sergeant major in a combat. I know what it's like to carry a gun in combat. Well, actually, no, you don't, because you weren't actually there in combat. Well, yeah, but I misspoke. You misspoke? What? I don't always speak clearly. Well, then why are you the governor of?
It's those fish stories, man. I was out on the lake. I caught a 4-pound fish. And then he goes tell the buddy, man, I was on the lake, man. I swear it had to be about 8 feet long. You be like, dude, last week it was just 4 feet. So it's one of them things, man. I trust Tim Walz about as far as I can throw him, right? Yeah. And it's bad. So and here's the dilemma for independents like me, right? I'm stuck between knowing what I'm going to get with a Trump presidency, right? I know absolutely a Trump presidency is going to be absolute hell, right? And I know the chaos that's going to bring for me and how that's going to set up and shape the future. And I also know that a Harris presidency is nothing but a front presidency for the status quo, right? She is Absolutely. A face. She is Little Debbie on a fucking package, and she's nothing but a mouthpiece for the machine, right? So no matter how you shape it and package it, you can sell me on she's the first black this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, if you peel back all the fucking layers on the onion, she's a fucking Democratic stooge who's nothing but, she's a mouthpiece. She has nothing to offer on her own except for what they tell her to say and what they tell her to do. And if you look at it, she's not going to give you anything that they are not going to allow her to give, right? So what you're faced with is, do I take the dude that's been lying to me for the last 8 years, or do I take the system that's been lying to me for the last 38 years, for the last 40 years?
What is,
you know what I'm saying? So as independent, you're just kind of like.
So let me ask you a question on that, because I think this is important. When we start talking about them and they and this and that, right? So I try to get a little more specific.
Yeah.
Trump Well, let me ask you a question. And this should be easy. Trump has been lying to us for 8 years. Tell me Trump's biggest lie that he has told the American people.
Well, it doesn't have it. See, and then so then again, and I hate to be the race guy, it doesn't matter to Black America about the American people because there's two Americas. It doesn't.
Right, but I'm not talking about
so that's
I want to make a larger point.
Yeah,
I want to make a larger point here, though.
So when we govern, so Trump and politicians, America and politicians overall, they don't govern for my political bloc. They govern for America, and then whatever happens to trickle down to my political bloc, they do. Right. So as a Black man and as a Black American, we just kind of vote for someone who's going to basically do enough for America that's going to allow enough windfall that's going to fill the coffers enough for us to catch that political windfall, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. So when Trump thankfully in his first iteration he got out of the way enough for Congress to push enough legislation through to allow for things to get passed, right? He didn't block it, and he had the Republicans in his pocket enough to where traditionally where Republicans will block things like HBCU funding or infrastructure or voting rights and like that, within reason, those are things that Republicans would generally block. But because Trump had them in his pocket enough, they didn't block those things. So they came through with the Trump presidency, right? So it wasn't necessarily a Trump agenda thing. It was just like, hey, we got this dude who has enough sway with the Republicans to where he was like, yo, let me sign this shit. Lead, don't you dare block it because I got to have something on paper to say I did something. Let's slide this in on this bill. You know what I'm saying? And then we can tout it as, oh, Trump did this, right? So it worked, okay, right?
So we're gonna go a hard 90-minute here, just because my computer.
I forgot. Yeah.
So, but the reason I want to say that, I was asking you about the biggest lie that Trump told, is we've been fed this idea that Trump lies and Trump lies and Trump lies. But it's not just Trump. We've been fed this by the media that Republicans lie. I've told this before. I think it was in 2011, 12, during the campaign, Romney said that Jeep was moving its production from the U.S. to China or Mexico, one or the other, out of the U.S. And Newsweek or CNN, one of them said it was the lie of they claimed it was the lie of the year. and then the election was over, Obama won, and what did Jeep do? They moved production outside of the United States. You had Harry Reid during that time. He came out and he basically said, oh, well, look at Romney. He doesn't even pay his income taxes. And the media ran with it, right? And then when they went back to him afterwards and said to Harry Reid, hey, don't you, you didn't have any proof of that, and you just said it out of the blue, doesn't that mean anything? And Harry Reid went, my guy won. Who cares?
It worked.
Right? It worked, right? So Trump, I look at Trump and I go, again, lesser of two evils. I'll tell you right now, I think Trump is an asshole. I think he's arrogant. I think he's a jerk. And I think he's better for this country than Harris is. I do. And that is not a full-throated endorsement of Trump. I was all in on Romney. I think this country would be in an incredibly different place if the media had played fair with Romney. But instead they didn't. And so now Trump is the first populist president. And I think if Trump gets in, I think the reason they talk about democracy ending and they're so scared of it is because if you have Trump come in for a second term and he doesn't have to worry about getting reelected, he can really go in and do some stuff that is going to freak out the powers that be. And then we get back to your tin hat theory of how long does that last before, instead of getting a Wi-Fi ear ring does he get a off switch? And so that's something that, but he has to win. So then now here's the real question. The powers that be wanted Biden to win in 2020. If you're saying the powers that be want Vance to be in that seat for whatever reason it is, they have to stop the Democratic machine from doing what they did in 2020. And I will never say the Democrats stole the election. I will say they manipulated the election. So they have to stop the manipulation. But the way this is looking, you could legitimately have a 270, 268 win by Harris.
But here's where you're wrong. What if they got both sides? The only wild card.
Then you don't need to stop Trump from winning.
No, the only wild card is Trump. There's only one person being. Think about it. There's only one person being.
Why is Trump better as a martyr then? If you could just go with the easy way and go with Harris.
Because there's only one wild card. There's only one person being attacked. JD Vance hadn't had a scratch on him.
No. But what I'm saying is, you said that Trump would be better as a martyr.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, for the powers that be, if you're saying it doesn't matter if it's Vance or Harris, either way, the cabal gets to do what the cabal gets to do, and the wild card is Trump, then the cabal's smart move is to back Harris. And the reason I'm not sure is because every poll out there, every poll that says Harris is up by 8, I just laugh at. It's ridiculous. But when you start looking at those micro polls, and Michigan and Wisconsin and Arizona and Nevada are all within the margin of error, that's when I start going, is it going to be the powers that be cannot fix those states enough, and Trump wins? Now, like you said, if Trump wins, Trump's got a clean house with the FBI, with the CIA, the Secret Service, and then do the work. But if I'm Trump, oh my gosh, the first thing I'm doing, I am getting rid of the Secret Service. And not getting rid of it. I'm sorry. Revamping the Secret Service.
If Trump wins, he doesn't make it 90 days. I give him 90 days.
I thought that about. I disagree.
Inauguration.
I disagree. Here's why.
I don't see it.
And I've only got a couple final thoughts.
Right? Yeah, final thoughts. Let's go.
Here's why. Obama didn't get killed, and Obama could have been part of it, but you have to believe there were non-supported individual kookies that wanted to take out Obama, and the Secret Service kept that from happening.
You know, right? The difference between Obama and Trump?
Part of the system.
They
wanted to protect Obama.
Obama played ball.
They wanted to protect Obama. Yeah, that's why I'm saying if Trump wins, but here's part of the problem. If Trump gets assassinated with what's happened so far, the confidence in people still they still worry about themselves. If the Secret Service allows Trump to die on their watch in the next 6 months, you want political violence? That's how it's going to happen. January 6th.
But they got a built-in scapegoat. They're going to blame it on the Democrats. Oh, it's the Democrats.
Doesn't matter.
They're going to blame it on the Democrats.
It doesn't matter, though.
I'm telling you.
It doesn't matter because what you will have enough, let's say, militiamen, those who believe in the Second Amendment militia. I think that could spark a civil war in the U.S. more than. Again, I still stand by my economics. Economics will start a civil war if we cut off the extra money to people. But this is the second way. If Trump were to die anytime in office by assassination, I think it would make George Floyd's riots look 2 came.
30 seconds. They're gonna take
You get
him
the
out.
last word.
They're gonna take him out.
Okay.
I don't think he makes it. See you next week.
Gee, Vance, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Reaching
Try to take over the world.
and greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.